January 8, 2005 started as an ordinary day for a man named Martin, until he checked his mailbox and found something unexpected waiting for him. There was a mysterious package with no return address, and when he brought it inside and tore it open, he discovered a single videotape with no label or explanation attached to it. Naturally curious about what could be on this unmarked tape, he grabbed his camcorder and slid it in to see what was recorded on it. And what he witnessed left him absolutely stunned. The tape contained nearly an hour of footage showing a man methodically describing the violent acts he was planning to commit. He detailed how he intended to lure his victims and showed the crude, homemade tools he had assembled for his mission. He displayed a drill wrapped in padding to muffle the sound since he lived in an apartment complex, along with gags made from socks and rolls of duct tape. He also showed a soldering iron, explaining it was a crude tool, but one he believed could be incredibly effective when used properly.
I'm not trained in torture methods, which is what I'm gonna have to make do. I got my drill here. The reason why it's got this padding on it is just to try to silence it a bit because I'm in an apartment. I got gags, socks, I got lots of duct tape. I got a soldering iron, sheets. It's rather crude implements. I think can work wonders, especially if it's used in the right way.
The disturbing content was shocking enough on its own, but what truly horrified Martin was something far more personal. He recognized the face staring back at him from the screen. This wasn't some random stranger's confession or the deranged ramblings of an unknown serial killer. The person in the video was Ricky Rodriguez, who happened to be Martin's close friend and someone he thought he knew well. This tape wasn't the manifesto of someone planning senseless violence against innocent people. Instead, it was the final message from a man who had suffered unimaginable trauma at the hands of a cult that controlled his entire childhood. And he was now planning to get revenge against those who destroyed his innocence. Ricky had recorded this lengthy video and mailed copies to his few trusted friends and family members, so they would understand exactly what drove him to his breaking point and why he felt he had no other choice. In the recording, Ricky explained that he was making this video for several reasons, but mainly because he wanted there to be some permanent record of how he felt and what his true thoughts were. He wanted people to understand who he really was beneath the damage that had been inflicted on him over the years.
I am making this video, well, for many reasons, I guess. I suppose the main reason is that I want there to be some record of the way I feel, my ideas, just who I was, really.
Ricky's nightmare began 3 decades earlier on January 25, 1975, when he entered the world as the first child of Karen Elva Zerby. His mother, Karen, was deeply involved with a dangerous organization called the Children of God, which disguised itself using Christian terminology to attract vulnerable young people and teenagers before twisting their minds to fit its disturbing agenda. 2 years after Ricky was born, he was adopted by the cult's leader, David Berg, who proclaimed himself to be a chosen prophet sent by God. David renamed the organization to The Family and announced that Ricky was a special religious figure, giving him an elevated status within the group's hierarchy. While other cult members treated Ricky like he was royalty whenever others were watching, the reality behind closed doors was a living nightmare. Ricky became the victim of horrific abuse that no child should ever experience, and David Berg not only allowed these acts, but actively encouraged them. He even went so far as to document everything in a disturbing publication called The Story of Davidito, which detailed the abuse inflicted on Ricky. This torture continued for many long years, but as Ricky matured, he began to see through David's lies and manipulation tactics. Finally, in 1999, he managed to escape the cult's grip, along with his girlfriend, Alexia Munumel, by pretending to visit the cult compound in Mexico, but instead fleeing to the United States. Adjusting to normal society after spending 24 years trapped in an isolated cult environment was incredibly difficult, but Ricky somehow found the strength to push forward. He He secured employment as an electrician and eventually married Alexia before relocating to Tucson, Arizona for work opportunities. Despite his best efforts to build a new life and leave the past behind him, the memories of what he endured continued to torment him day and night. David Byrd had died back in 1994, and the cult was now being led by Karen Zerby, who was actually Ricky's own mother. The organization had managed to avoid legal consequences by primarily operating in foreign countries, but Ricky knew there were still countless children suffering the same abuse he had experienced. So in January 2005, he decided that enough was enough, and he would take matters into his own hands. This brings us back to that chilling video he recorded and sent to his closest friends and his wife. In the footage, Ricky revealed his ultimate objective, which was to single-handedly bring down the entire cult and everyone involved. Beyond that, he also wanted revenge for everything that had been done to him during his childhood. He explained that he had this overwhelming need for justice and retribution that wasn't just a desire, but an absolute necessity, because he couldn't continue living with the weight of his trauma. He described how this need for revenge consumed him, even though he wished it didn't.
There's this need that I have. This need, it's not a want, it's a need, and I wish it wasn't, but it is. It's a need for revenge. It's a need for justice. Because I can't go on like this.
The video also outlined his specific plan for achieving his goal. He had apparently reconnected with his former nanny, Angela Smith, who was one of the people who had tormented him during his time in the cult. His plan was to invite her to dinner at his Tucson apartment and extract information about the whereabouts of other cult members by whatever means proved necessary. On January 8th, after mailing out copies of his recording, he invited Angela into his home and proceeded to execute his plan. It remains unclear what information he managed to get from her before he took her life, but afterwards, he got into his car and drove to Blythe, California. Once there, he checked into a motel room and called his wife to confess what he had done and what he intended to do next. Despite all his careful planning and preparation, Ricky ultimately found himself unable to continue with the rest of his mission. On the morning of January 9th, law enforcement discovered his vehicle in a parking lot just a few miles away from the motel where he had been staying. Inside the car, they found Ricky, who had ended his own life during the night. While this tragic outcome devastated his loved ones, it didn't come as a complete surprise to his wife, because during their final phone conversation, Ricky had admitted something unexpected. He had believed that getting revenge and killing the people who hurt him would finally bring him the peace he desperately needed, and he mentioned this repeatedly in his video, describing how liberating he imagined it would feel.
I can imagine how I would feel, how liberating it would be.
But that's not what happened at all. When he spoke to his wife after killing Angela, he confessed that despite all his anger and years of resentment, taking her life was actually the hardest thing he had ever done. The revenge he sought didn't bring him any comfort or closure. He realized he couldn't bring himself to take any more lives, so he decided to end everything that night, leaving behind only that hour-long video for his friends and family to remember him by. As for the family cult, it continues to operate even today, still under the leadership of his mother. October 4th, 2006, at approximately 6:15 in the morning, brought a deeply unsettling call to the Barrie Police Department. A woman's voice came through the line saying that her children were dead, but her tone was disturbingly calm and quiet. The disconnect between what she was reporting and how emotionless she sounded immediately raised red flags. When the dispatcher asked what had happened to the children, she simply replied that she didn't know and couldn't remember anything. Officers were immediately dispatched to the address she provided, and they knocked on the apartment door while mentally preparing themselves for whatever horror might be waiting inside. The door opened to reveal 31-year-old Frances Elaine Campion standing there. When officers asked about the children she had mentioned during her call, she responded in that same eerily calm voice, confirming that yes, they were dead, and their bodies were lying on her bed. As the officers entered the master bedroom, they discovered the remains of two young girls. 3-year-old Serena and 19-month-old Sophia were both lying on the bed, dressed in clean clothing. They were even wearing necklaces and earrings, as if they had been carefully prepared. However, their skin had already begun turning blue, which suggested they had been deceased for quite some time. One officer noticed a small bruise on Sophia's forehead, but otherwise there were no obvious signs explaining how they died. Nothing else in the room provided any immediate answers about what had occurred. As investigators searched through Elaine's apartment, they discovered a camcorder, and when they reviewed the footage on it, everything became horrifyingly clear. The recording started off innocently enough, showing Elaine surprising her daughter Serena with a brand new bicycle for her 3rd birthday on August 8, 2006. The camera captured the happy celebration with Serena excitedly discovering her present.
It's August 8th, 2006. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Serena. Happy birthday to you. Serena's 3 today. Yay! Shall we go to the living room and see if you got any birthday presents from the birthday fairies?
Yes!
Okay, let's go.
I have to go.
What is it?
It's a bike.
Another recording showed Elaine spending quality time with both daughters, just playing around and having fun together. Elaine expressed her love for her girls, and they had sweet exchanges about their affection for one another.
This much.
Oh, I love you more than that.
Everything in these early videos seemed completely normal and showed a loving mother with her children. However, the third recording, dated October 2nd, marked a dramatic shift in tone. Elaine's demeanor suddenly changed as she began ranting about their terrible living conditions and the torment she claimed to have endured from her ex-husband Leo and his family. She said all of this directly in front of her confused children. She complained bitterly about how filthy their apartment was and expressed intense anger toward Diego Campion, saying she hoped he would suffer for his actions, just like Leonardo. She explained that all she wanted was to take care of her 2 daughters and live peacefully after enduring 3 years of what she described as constant physical, emotional, and mental abuse from Leonardo Campion, followed by another year of abuse from Anna and Diego Campion. She claimed that Child Protective Services kept forcing these people back into her life, despite her repeated complaints about the damage it was causing to 3-year-old Serena and herself and baby Sophia. She believed the abuse was horrible and completely unjustified, and she wanted justice for what had been done to her family. She insisted she had cried out for help, but no one listened.
You can't see through the camera, boo-boo. Oh, yes, this is a deplorable, horrible, messy, filthy apartment that supposedly my 2 children and I live in, and it's just a horrible, horrible mess. Yeah. I think Diego Campione is totally in the wrong, and I hope he burns in hell for all his sins, the same as Leonardo. All I wanted to do was take care of my 2 little girls and live happily ever after the 3 years of emotional and mental abuse that I endured tremendously by Leonardo Campione, and then the past year from Anna and Diego Campione, mental and emotional abuse, which wouldn't stop, and I had CAS keep bringing these 2 people into my life over and over again when I kept telling them the mental and emotional abuse it was causing my 3-year-old daughter Serena and I and Sophia. It was horrible and uncalled for, and I want justice to my family for what they have all done to us. I cried out for help. They should have.
According to the background information that emerged, Leo had indeed been abusive, both physically and mentally during their marriage. He had prevented Elaine from maintaining contact with her own parents, and at one point had even kicked her in the stomach while she was pregnant with one of their daughters. These actions resulted in Leo being charged with domestic violence, and the couple eventually divorced. However, by the time of this October recording, Leo was apparently trying to turn his life around, and had become involved in a custody battle with Elaine over their 2 daughters. This legal battle took an enormous toll on Elaine's already fragile mental state. She had a history of instability and had been admitted to psychiatric facilities twice in recent years. But according to her mother, the custody fight pushed her completely over the edge. She developed severe paranoia and became increasingly worried that Leo would eventually show up at her door and forcibly take the girls away from her. Then, on October 2nd, after ending that rambling video recording at 8:39 in the evening, Elaine did something unspeakable. She took the lives of her own daughters and then recorded a haunting confession using the same camera. In this final recording, she addressed Leo directly, asking if he was satisfied now that everything was gone. She accused him of refusing to give her peace or tell the truth despite her begging. She mentioned someone named Stacy not believing her about needing to sign certain papers. She talked about going to victim witness services, trying to get someone to believe the truth about how Leo had allegedly beaten her for 3 years behind closed doors, including while she was pregnant with both Serena and Sophia. She claimed he never cared about their babies, or about her, and only cared about himself and winning their custody battle. She asked him repeatedly if this outcome made him happy, and admitted it didn't bring her any satisfaction at all. She said she had lost everything, including her entire life.
Recording this because Leo and I are being happy. Everything is gone. You wouldn't give peace. You wouldn't tell the truth. I begged. You even had Stacy not believing me, telling her I had to sign papers when I didn't. I went to victim witness to get the truth. Trying, begging everyone the truth. How you beat me for 3 years behind closed doors. Beat me when I was pregnant with Serena and Sophia. You didn't care about our babies. You didn't care about me. You care about yourself.
At this point, the footage cuts to a later moment where Elaine apparently attempted to take her own life, but was unsuccessful. When officers arrived and found the girls deceased, Elaine was immediately arrested on the spot. She was later formally charged with murder, and the disturbing found footage from her apartment served as critical evidence during her trial. She was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after serving 25 years.